What's up, Scandalites and Said So Squad? I took my little one-night anniversary trip. I jigged a little bit, I drank a little bit, and I was smelling good the whole doggone time. Baby, you know why. SCENTBIRD. SCENTBIRD is an online fragrance subscription service that allows you to try different fragrances each month. While I was on my trip during the daytime, I wore me some Happy by Clinique, which had me smelling tropical, like oranges and magnolias. Then for the nighttime, I had to spice it up and get sexy on them, honey. I wore me some Cherry Punk by Room 1015. It's got a leathery saffron smell. Also got some cherry and violet mixed up in there. Get this though, child. SCENTBIRD not only had me smelling right, child, my husband sitting up there wanting to smell good too. So he ordered him some Burberry Touch. Burberry Touch has a very strong peppery smell, like a cedar and mandarin all mixed together. And for his nighttime fragrance, he chose Eros by Versace, and that boy was smelling good. I had to keep an eye on him, honey, because this one got that smoky smell to kind of draw women to you. And so you know it was a whole bunch of, "Ooh, hey sir, you smell good. Thank you sis, but how I smell?" Anyway, I'm gonna stop cutting up with y'all. You can choose over 600 fragrances, and they all last a long time because they put so much fragrance in the bottle. And I'm talking about fragrances listed on their website that could easily run you up to $300 to $500. That ain't nobody finna pay. That's why SCENTBIRD is giving it to y'all for $17 a month. And that's just SCENTBIRD's price. Oh honey, you knew I was coming with the hookup for my Said So Squad and Scandalite. All you gotta do is click the link below to visit SCENTBIRD's website, or scan this QR code to visit SCENTBIRD's website. Once you get there, type in my code, SAYSO55, for 55% off of your first month subscription. That's only about $8 a month for your first month. Go sign up now. And now we got some tea to get into, honey. So don't forget to visit AshleySaidSo.net for your merch. Don't forget to visit the Amazon wish list if you want to send me gifts. And come on, let's listen to this disclaimer, because what was going on with Roxie Roker? Let's get to it.
I'm not sure what's true or false in this video. I take gossip and tea and scandal from online, from books, from magazine, from word of mouth, and I ball it all up and I tell you guys a story. The whole video is for entertainment purposes. I have done my research. Make sure you do yours. Now, let's get to the video.
Roxie Alberta Roker was born on August the 28th, 1929 in Miami, Florida. Her mother's name was Bessie Roker and her father's name was Albert Roker. And it seems as soon after little Roxie was born, the whole family picked up and moved to Brooklyn, New York for better opportunity. And this was a great thing because Roxie flourished in New York. She developed a full personality full of flair and drama. She also rarely met a person that she wasn't nice to or couldn't teach a thing or two. And it surprised absolutely nobody that when her father took her to see a stage production of Porgy and Bess, Roxie decided that she wanted a career on stage. This meant that by the time Roxie graduated high school, that she was looking forward to going to a college that would take the time to develop Black actors. And she found this college in Howard University. Roxie's main focus was her major, which was dramatic arts. But if I'm not mistaken, it was also at Howard that she became an AKA. I do know that after she graduated from Howard, Roxie took her studies one step further by going to England to learn at the Shakespeare Institute. And this decision gave Roxie the range she needed, not only to be successful in her stage work or in front of the camera, but to also be successful when it came to the corporate world, which was excellent planning. Because Roxie's foray into acting did not just happen just like that. In fact, before she got on anybody's stage, she actually worked as a clerk/typist for NBC. Roxie's professionalism and her assertiveness and the easy way that she got along with people caused her to quickly move up the ladder. Firstly, she moved up to a secretary, and then very quickly after that, she moved up to be the coordinator of the whole department that she worked in. And this was actually pretty good money for a young woman straight out of college back in the day. But Roxie, of course, wasn't all the way fulfilled because she wanted to act. And at this point in time, she had no husband and she had no kids that she had to rush back to. So after she would leave work, she decided to start joining the theater. And it was on one of these days when Roxie was rumored to be headed to said theater that she ended up walking down 30 Rockefeller Plaza and either bumped into or was stopped by a cute young Jewish guy. And I'm guessing their exchange went something like Roxie saying, "Oh, excuse me," to which the Jewish guy responds, "Oh no ma'am, excuse me." And might I say, you are quite a beautiful woman. And to this, I imagine that Roxie laughed and she blushed, and the Jewish guy continued and introduced himself as Cy Kravitz. Now, of course, that whole scenario of everything they said was made up in my mind, but what I can confirm is that after they bumped into each other and met, they never lost contact after that. And over time, while they were conversing, they found out that they both held the same interest. Just like Roxie was into entertainment, Cy said that he was as well. Also, just like Roxie was currently working at NBC, Cy informed her that he worked for ABC. And he was only an editor, so he wasn't really a big shot. But still, I'm sure that this pleased Roxie that they had so much in common. And not only that, she felt like Cy could possibly help out her career along the way. But honey, let me tell you, Cy wasn't interested in helping Roxie with no doggone career, no job, or nothing else like that, honey. The only thing he was interested in at this time was making Roxie Roker his woman. He took her out on dates and he pleaded with her to be his because allegedly Roxie hesitated. And I can see that happening because the truth is it kind of threw her off that this young white Jewish guy was just heavily interested in her like that. You know, Roxie didn't really know how to take it. But the way Cy just really would never give up, you know, she really just stood no chance. So after a while, she did agree to be his girl, and she was very pleased with her decision. But I'm going to tell you who gossip says wasn't pleased, though. That was Roxie's parents. Child, rumor has it them people didn't like Cy a little bit. And I'm pretty sure it was because they were cautious like Roxie. But even more than Roxie, they really didn't trust Cy. You know, they really questioned his intentions. And they also questioned if he was strong enough to be with a black woman. You know, not only dealing with a black woman, but everything that would come from everywhere else, if he was strong enough to protect his black woman. And really, that was something that he was going to need to be able to do because Cy's own family didn't like Roxie. And theirs had nothing to do with Roxie's intentions or wondering if Roxie could protect Cy or anything like that. No, theirs was solely because of Roxie's skin color and also the fact that she was a Gentile. But in the end, Cy proved to Roxie that it didn't matter what his family thought. They could cut him off. He loved her, and that is where he wanted to be. And so, of course, this was enough for Roxie, and also her father kind of started coming around as well. But her mother was still sitting up there kind of shaking her head. You know, she was just kind of like, you know, I don't know about this. And I'm not sure what she felt in her heart about Cy and Roxie being together, but it may have had something to do with the fact that Cy had been married before. Not only had he been married before, he had 2 girls before he met Roxie. 2 girls that he had nothing to do with. Now, honey, let's get messy and scandalous because gossip claims that Roxie did push and kind of try to bribe Cy to go spend time with his daughters, to be in his daughters' lives. And gossip says that Cy would always promise Roxie that he would, but gossip also says that there's never really been any concrete proof that at that time that Cy actually did foster a relationship with his daughter. You know, so I don't know. Maybe he had a relationship with them later on in life. But like I said, at this point in time, when he and Roxie were just dating, the folks say he didn't have nothing to do with them girls. And so maybe this, along with some other stuff, were some of the reasons that Roxie's mother was kind of standoffish at first. But just like Cy didn't care about what his parents said about Roxie, Roxie did not care about what her parents said about Cy. When Cy asked her to marry him, she said yes. And although Cy's parents never came around and started liking Roxie, so they didn't attend the wedding, Roxie's mother did end up trying to make the effort to like Cy. So she, her husband, and the rest of Roxie's family, they did come to the wedding to cheer the young couple on. And as far as the wedding year, baby, it was either 1962, 1963, or maybe even 1965. Who knows, because sources differ. All I can tell you is that the pair seemed to be a great match. The young couple were very much in love, and they were also over the moon when Roxie ended up giving birth to their first and only child, Lenny, in 1964. And yes, baby Lenny is the famous Lenny Kravitz that we know today. And Roxie was said to have taken pride in being a very hands-on wife and mother. Even when her career took off and she was a well-paid actress, she still did her wifely duties. You know, she still did her own cooking, her own cleaning. She still took care of her child by herself. She didn't have any nannies. And if life could have just stayed that way, my, how wonderful everything could have been. But it's just never that easy, is it? It's just never long before confusion starts to set in. And unfortunately for Roxie, confusion was on its way quick because baby Cy was a scoundrel who waited no time to act a fool. Honey, I tell you the truth. The folks say that Cy waited until Roxie got good and pregnant and started to show the hand of a sorry man. And what's worse is by the time little Lenny got like 1 or 2 years old, Cy had a full-blown relationship on the side going on. Said that Cy used to kiss Roxie and Lenny goodbye in the morning time and then go and spend the whole day at his mistress's house. Wouldn't call in, wouldn't check in, and then had the nerve to get mad at Roxie because she wouldn't let him cheat in peace. Gossip claims that at least twice, maybe even more times than that, Roxie actually followed him to his mistress's house. Said that she would knock on the door, curse the mistress out, and then tell Cy that playtime was over, it's time to come on home. And baby Cy would be sitting up there mad at her. Why you following me over here? It's not what it looks like, you just assuming stuff. Sir, shut on up and go on home because you're doing too much. And it's really sad because Roxie found herself married to a serial cheater. But she was deeply in love with Cy, and also they had Lenny. So she just stayed and prayed that her marriage would work, and she also started to bury herself in work. So in 1969, she quit her job at NBC and decided to join the theater full time. And luckily for Roxie, since she was so laser focused, she booked a number of shows in 1969 all the way up through the early 70s. By 1974, she even won an Obie Award and was nominated for a Tony Award. And it was while she was performing in these successful stage plays on Broadway that she caught the eye of Norman Lear. And Norman Lear at this time was working on a spinoff for the maid Louise that played on All in the Family. The idea of this new show was going to be about Louise and her husband, who had just become successful by owning dry cleaning businesses. And this show, of course, was called The Jefferson. The reason Norman Lear was looking at Roxie Roker is because Louise and her husband, George Jefferson, were set to have neighbors, an interracial couple. The husband of the interracial couple was going to be named Tom Willis, and the wife's name was going to be Helen Willis. And that is the part that Norman Lear was considering for Roxie Roker. So rumor has it, after one of Roxie's plays, Norman Lear actually approached her and he talked to her about the role, and he asked her, would you have a problem kissing a white man? And that's when Roxie pulled out a picture of her real life white husband, and so Norman Lear gave her the role. And I don't have much to say about Roxie being on the Jeffersons because truly there's not much tea there. But what I can say is that homegirl was flying high, baby. She walked into that Helen Willis role and she basically stole the show anytime she was on screen. And she made everybody proud. She was proud of herself. Her parents were proud of her. Her son Lenny was proud of her. And if you're waiting on me to say her husband Cy was proud of her, baby, you'll be waiting forever. Because the truth of the matter is that Cy was sitting up there mad. Now, it was okay when Roxie was just doing theater, you know what I'm saying? Not really well known and not making that much money. But now too many people thought highly of Roxie. Now everywhere she went, everybody was sitting up there trying to get to know his wife. And wasn't nobody really paying attention to him. Also, now she was making much more money than he ever made. And just who did Roxie think she was? What right did she have to make that type of money? Was he not the man of the family anymore? Baby, let me tell you something. The folks say that Roxie liked to cover up this part of her life. But the real deal is that Cy Kravitz was big jealous, and he also was a big nightmare. And to be honest with you, even before Roxie came into fame, she had to deal with Cy lashing out at her. But even more than that, he would lash out at their son. He was always in a bad mood when it came to Lenny. He always judged Lenny very harshly. If Lenny ever got hurt in any way, even when the child was about 3 or 4 years old, if Lenny cried, here comes Cy. Oh, you just so soft. You need to man up. You a crybaby. If Lenny did anything that other people deemed to be good, here comes Cy pointing out some small reason of why it wasn't so good. It was just like the boy could do nothing right in his father's eyes. And if Roxie ever tried to tell him not to be so hard on Lenny, which she rarely, if ever, did, okay? She rarely did this. But if she ever did try to tell Cy, let's not be so hard on him, baby, Cy would light her behind up and tell her that you don't tell him how to raise his son. That's his son. So again, all this stuff was pressure that Roxie already had to deal with before she even made it to stardom. Well, now that she is a star, here comes the other pressures and worry. The worry of trying to keep Sai appeased and trying to keep Sai happy, having to watch the way she talked and answering his questions just right not to upset him. For example, Sai would probably throw something out like, well, I see you signed that new contract. They sure are paying you a lot of money now. What you plan on doing with all that money? Roxie would kind of have to respond in a way of, oh, baby, well, I haven't even thought about what to do with it. What would you like to do with it? I would never make a decision without you. You're the one that knows how to handle the money, the family, the business. Everything goes through you, baby. And that probably was a poor example, but he would always kind of dangle and throw things out there to kind of test to make sure that Roxie hadn't gotten too big for her britches, to make sure that she knew that he was still the ruler of all. And Roxie Roker wanted her marriage to work, so she obliged him. If she was out somewhere and somebody called her Roxie Roker, she would quickly correct them and say, oh, no, it's Roxie Kravitz. Or she'd be quick to say, oh, no, my husband said I shouldn't do this. Or, oh, I can't make any decisions. I have to run it by Sai. She tried to keep him happy, even when he started taking her money and spending it on himself and himself only. Just like the time when they bought new cars, or I should say new cars when it came to Roxie, because Roxie bought herself an older Buick. And what y'all think Sai bought himself? And baby, if you say something like a Cadillac or a Mercedes, you still way off the mark. Baby, he went and took her money and bought himself a Rolls Royce. And Roxie never said a word because she felt like that's what Sai needed to make himself feel like a man. But what Roxie didn't understand is that no matter what she did, she wasn't going to make Sai feel nothing. He was not going to feel secure in himself at all. And one of the reasons why is because all of his ventures failed. He couldn't find his own success. He quit his editing job at ABC because he wanted to make big money like his wife. So he tries to be a music producer. That failed. He tried to start a clothing line. That failed. He even bought a racing horse. That failed. I mean, absolutely nothing would work and get off of the ground for him. And it was probably the universe not letting it happen because he wasn't really happy for his wife's success. He was too jealous of her. If he could have been genuinely happy for her and stopped competing against her, then maybe something could have worked out. But every time a business venture of his failed where he used some of Roxie's money or anything like that, she never said a word. She just accepted it. But the person who was paying for Sai's failures the hardest was their son, Lenny. See, by the time Lenny Kravitz became a teenager, he had a huge desire to start his own music career. But his father, Sai, tried to stop it at every turn. For one, he was negative about anything that Lenny did. Oh, you got that song, I don't like that, that don't sound good. He also tried to stop Lenny from practicing with his friends. There's a couple of stories about how Sai cursed Lenny out in front of his friends for no reason, basically just to embarrass him. He just got joy out of making Lenny's life hell. And Roxie would try to step in and make things easier, but she was a very traditional wife and she wanted her marriage to work. So the only thing that she could really do to kind of bring comfort to Lenny was kind of visit him at the end of the night and kind of tell him, Lenny, the reason I don't say anything is because, your father is the man of the house. I don't want to step on his toes. I can't contradict what he tells you to do, but baby, the talent that you have. You don't need your father or anybody else to tell you how good you are. You need to shoot for the star. And just to boil all of this down and condense everything, I don't want you guys to walk away from this thinking like, oh, Roxie, she put up with anything just to keep a man. That wasn't it, okay? That's not what I'm trying to say. Roxie thought having a two-parent home for her son was the best thing going. So it was more about having a family unit for her son and less about her just wanting to hold on to this man because she loved him. Don't get me wrong, she did love Sai, but it was more about Lenny. And so you guys can use the comments to tell me, do you think it was worth it? You know what I'm saying? Do you think that Roxie made the right decision to go through this just so her son could have a two-parent household? Because baby, let me tell you this, Sai had Roxie looking like a fool out here. This wasn't nothing where it was just kind of in-house. Baby, the people in California, Los Angeles, Hollywood, all those places, baby, they felt like Roxie looked like a doggone fool. Because Sai allegedly cheated on Roxie with prostitutes. He would be in public with different women going to nightclubs and bars. Didn't care who spotted him. In fact, gossip claims if one of Roxie's friends or associates did spot him, Cy would look at them like, yeah, I'm out with this person. You need to mind your business. And then not only was it the cheating, people actually saw it through the things they did. Like I said, Roxie driving this Buick that's older and Cy got this Rolls Royce. Or Roxie wearing regular clothes and shoes and then Cy stepping out every day with designer suits on. You know what I'm saying? Watches, rings, looking like a pimp daddy. And then the people close to them, they knew that Cy didn't have no dang on money. That was Roxie's money. So he's doing all of this, but it did not matter. Roxie never wavered. She never wavered in her love, her loyalty. And like I told you before, it was mostly because she wanted a two-parent household for Lenny. But baby, I'm gonna tell you, as time started to go on, allegedly, Lenny himself was like, to hell with a two-parent household. And it was because Cy's treatment of him was becoming progressively worse over time. Lenny became tired of how strict his father was, how his father ruled with an iron fist, how his father always picked on him, always found a reason to put him down. And I already told you that when he first became a teenager, he became interested in having a music career. Well, by the time that he was 16, he was knee deep in this musical career. He was playing with a local band. I think he was getting small gigs. And if I'm not mistaken, he was headed to one of these gigs when things between him and his father, Cy, came to a head. And the story says that Lenny was headed out of the door to his show and his father stopped him and told him that he wasn't going anywhere that night. Well, Lenny, who is 16 and feeling himself and sick of it, stands up and gets up in his father's face and tells him, I'm tired of you doing this to me. All you do is pick on me. All you do is make my life hard. And I am going to this show whether you like it or not. And that's when Cy looks up and walks up to Lenny nose to nose and tells Lenny, you go to that show tonight, don't ever come back here. You go to that show, you need to get out of this house. And that's what Lenny did. He left to go to that show and he never returned back home. He started living with friends. Roxie was heartbroken. But even though her son wasn't living in the house with them anymore, she still did everything in her power to support him. She still gave him money, bought him clothes, made sure that he was well fed and looked after. She also would show up at any of his gigs where he played. And sometimes Lenny would even stop back over to the family home to see her when Cy wasn't home. And rumor has it was actually one of these moments of Lenny stopping by the house that would turn the whole family's world upside down. So the story says that Lenny is around 18 at this time and he's stopping by the house to see Roxie. Well, when he comes through the door, he notices that Roxie isn't home and he remembers that she told him that she was going to fly out to the Bahamas to see some of her family. So Lenny is about to turn and leave, especially when he hears his father Cy's voice from the bedroom. But as he was leaving, it was actually something about Cy's voice that made him stop. You see, Cy was mumbling and talking very quietly. And this piques Lenny's interest because his father never mumbled. As a matter of fact, his father was always yelling, talking loud, saying something slick. So Lenny is kind of wondering what's going on and he kind of inches to the bedroom door and he puts his ear up against the door. And this is when he hears his father say, no, baby, listen, please calm down. What I'm trying to tell you is that I want to do that for you. I would like to, but honey, I'm already having trouble hiding the last $50,000 I gave you. Roxie is going to look at the bank statement and she's going to get suspicious, wondering where this money is going. Lord have mercy, baby. When Lenny Kravitz heard this mess here, his back went straight, his shoulders went up, and his head went bald. Because what? Was his daddy really in this room talking to another woman and then saying he gave this other woman $50,000? And then Lenny put even more pieces together. His daddy wasn't working for real. Dang sure not working enough to have his own $50,000. So that $50,000 that he was talking about came from his mama, the woman that loved and devoted so much of herself to him. The woman that put herself down just to lift him up. And here his daddy had used the money of the woman who loved him so much on a woman that he was sitting up here on the phone with calling baby, a word that he never called Rox. That's a fact. From what I read, Cy had never called Roxie the word baby before. But you're sitting up here on the phone calling this woman baby? Listen, I cannot explain the fire that rose up inside of Lenny Kravitz, but it burned so fiercely. The gossip claims that immediately he went going into a closet where he know his father kept guns and was about to take a gun and go and tag Cy in the back of the head with it. And when I say tag, I'm not talking about hitting Cy. I'm talking about Cy. Baby was finna have his brains laid all the way out. In fact, gossip claims that the only thing that stopped Lenny from making that move was the thought of his mother, was how much it would hurt his mother that he would do something like that. But even though Lenny did not go through with the shooting, one thing he did go through with was letting his mama know it was no way he was going to sit up there and let his mother be played for a fool. So rumor has it that he called his mother on the phone and told her that she needed to buy him a ticket to the Bahamas ASAP. And that's what Roxie did. And when Lenny got to the Bahamas, he got his mother alone and he told her everything he heard on the phone. He told her that his father had been cheating and had a mistress, and not only that, that he was taking Roxie's money, her money, and he was spending it on the mistress. Although the shock and hurt that fell on Roxie's face broke Lenny's heart, he was stunned that her outburst was not much more than that. And when he wondered, mama, like, how are you not just falling apart? Listen to what I just told you. That is when Roxie told him that your father has always cheated. You know what I mean? She went back to the stories of when he was young, when he was like 1 or 2, and how she used to knock on the mistress's door, telling Cy that he needed to come home. And Lenny could not understand this. Well, mother, if you knew that father couldn't really be faithful to you, why were you still with him? What is going on here? And that's when Roxie had to tell him that I did it for you, baby. I stayed. I felt like it would be better for you to have a 2-parent household. But she did tell him that there were 2 things that did bother her very much and break her heart very much. It was the fact that Lenny was now privy to what his father did. And it was also the fact that there was a money aspect to it. It was one thing for Cy to stick his winky in a side piece dinky, but it was quite another thing to be funding that dinky's lifestyle. It also hurt her deeply because she thought that her funds were disappearing because Cy had a gambling problem, because he did. He would gamble her money away. So she thought that that's where all of that money was going. But to find out that he was taking large lump sums like that and putting it on another woman, that was just inconceivable to her. And so Lenny is kind of just listening to his mother, and he's like, okay, so, but mom, I'm 18 now, I'm grown now, and you shouldn't have to deal with this. And so Roxie and Lenny put a plan together. When she got back to the States and went home with Cy, she acted like everything was all good. She slept in the same bed as him. She kissed him, told him she loved him. But behind closed doors, she also hired a private investigator to follow him around so he could get evidence of Cy's cheating and evidence of Cy giving his mistress money so she could take all of this information and take it to the divorce lawyer. And once Roxie got the pictures and the evidence back, oh baby, she was done. Turns out the mistress was a young college student. Cy was paying her way through school. Cy had bought her a brand new car, and Cy had set her up in a brand new apartment. He also was giving her large lump sums to go shopping with. But what really got Roxie is that the girl was basically a beautiful younger version of her. Pretty girl, dark skin, gorgeous smile, long hair. And just seeing all of this, looking at all of this, and looking at this girl just became too much on Roxie. She could not hide and contain her anger against Cy any longer. And so she went and she faced Cy, and she threw all of the pictures, all of the letters, everything in his face. And she asked him, what is this? Cy does not say a word. Roxie goes to screaming and yelling and how could you do me like this? I gave you everything. What about us? Cy never says a word. In fact, he's looking at Roxie kind of like this. Very indignant, very unapologetic, very uncaring, how dare he? How dare he just sit back and look at her like this? It is driving Roxie insane. And so she calls Lenny over. And then when Lenny gets there, she tells Cy, since you have nothing to say to me, what are you going to say to your son? What do you have to say to him about breaking up our family this way? And Lenny is kind of just standing there looking at Cy very expectantly. He got some tears in his eyes. He's seeing his mama cry and break down. He's just wondering what his father is going to say. And for a long time, Cy says absolutely nothing. But as Roxie keeps demanding, say something, you owe your son something, Cy finally opens his mouth and tells Lenny, you'll do it too, son. you're gonna do it too. And then he just walks out of the house. Roxie is just beside herself. You know what I'm saying? She has given all of these years to this man, and this man didn't even open his mouth to apologize to her. In fact, he didn't open his mouth to say anything to her. He just watched her as she broke down and then tells their son, you know, you'll do it too. That's your only excuse. No sorries, no nothing, no be a better man than me. In fact, instead, you've spoken your negative ways on our son. And it also broke Lenny's heart. After all these years of things he put up with his daddy, and his daddy always getting onto him, telling him he's doing everything bad. Now that his daddy has been caught up in a very terrible, bad situation, you know, he doesn't take any accountability. He still finds a way to flip it on Lenny by telling Lenny that, you know, you'll do it too. Like, what kind of mess is that, baby? A hot mess, I'm telling you. After Cy left, Lenny and Roxie just started to try to pick up the pieces to their life. After a short time away, allegedly, Cy did end up coming back to Roxie, and he wanted to make it work. And the folks say that Roxie was actually going to possibly stay with him. But in the stage of reconciliation, she ended up getting a phone call. And when she answered it, it was a gangster on the other end of the phone. And that gangster told her that if Cy didn't pay him the money that he was owed, he was going to kill her, he was going to kill their son Lenny, and he was going to basically rip Cy apart. The whole family would be obliterated. Now, this right here was finally the thing that made Roxie bury the whole idea of being with Cy Kravitz. Cy Kravitz was a cheater. Cy Kravitz was a controlling narcissist. Cy Kravitz wasn't no kind of provider for the family. He was pretty much a louse. But even with all of those things, Roxie never ever even one moment considered that he would be the type of man that would put her and their son Lenny in harm's way by dealing with these type of dangerous people. I mean, this was as low as you could go. By Cy putting them in harm's way, he was pretty much showing that as long as he was able to borrow and gamble money and do what he wanted to do, like, he didn't care if his wife or son ended up dying in the process. So Roxie finally decided to finalize the separation with a divorce, which happened in 1985. And around the same exact time of her divorce, her time with the Jeffersons were ending because the show also ended in 1985. And after her divorce and after the ending of the Jeffersons, Roxie was kind of just free. Her son Lenny was grown. She wasn't married anymore. So she went to go back to her heart's desire, which was the theater. So she ended up leaving California and moving back to New York. As far as her personal life, she may have gone on a few dates with a few men, but I honestly think the whole episode with Cy just kind of scarred her deeply. I do know that when her son, Lenny Kravitz, ended up marrying Lisa Bonet, Roxie was not happy with it at first. And it was because she didn't really know Lisa that well, and also Lisa and Lenny were in such a rush to get married that they kind of left Roxie out of the loop. You know, they never told her they were getting married. She couldn't help her son or her future daughter-in-law plan any of the wedding details. So she just didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? As a mother with a very strong attachment to her son, she didn't like the way that she was kind of left out of the loop on that. After a while, though, she and Lisa Bonet were able to repair their relationship. And of course, when Lisa Bonet and Lenny Kravitz divorced in 1993, Roxie was a comfort to her son. But after 1993, there's really not much left out there about Roxie. She kind of just stayed home and kind of kept to herself. Unfortunately, in 1994 or 1995, she ended up being diagnosed with breast cancer. And it seems like instead of taking radiation treatments, Roxie decided to go the holistic approach. Rumor has it that she started doing the Gerson diet therapy. You know, she moved into this whole commune with other patients that were suffering with different things, and they were all practicing this diet and certain meditation activities. But the Gerson diet approach just did not work for Roxie. And so on December the 2nd, 1995, she ended up passing away from breast cancer when she was only 66 years old. All right, guys, this is the end of the Old Hollywood Scandal for Miss Roxie Roker. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like the video. If you guys are new here, please subscribe and like the video. And I don't know, I got to get to work on the next video, y'all. I got to pump them out this month. Anyways, love y'all. Bye.